Hi Park400, Luther here, and in this video we're going to talk about the permitting process to construct any structures on your assigned camping lot, modify any existing structures, or to repair any existing structures on your assigned camping lot. Now, everything that we're covering in this video is written down in detail in Chapter 22, Construction, Modification, and Repairing of Structures, in the Rules, Regulations, and Procedures. And before building or repairing or modifying any structure, you should refer to these rules and read them. This will just be a summary video. Now, there are two permits that you may need to do any construction, modification, or repairing. And one is a Park400 lot improvement permit, and the other one is possibly a Grays Harbor building permit. And in this video, we'll talk about generally when you need one or the other, or sometimes both of those. Again, it's covered in detail in Chapter 22 of the Rules, Regulations, and Procedures. Okay, so when do you need a lot improvement permit? Well, you need a lot improvement permit whenever you're constructing most new structures on your assigned camping lot. You also need a permit when you're revising or modifying an existing structure and you're changing the shape or the plans of the structure. Now, if you're just doing routine repair and maintenance and you're not adding or modifying anything, a permit is not needed. But if you are repairing and you're changing or modifying the shape or the structure, then you do need a lot improvement permit. You also need a lot improvement permit to do any dirt work, meaning you're moving dirt or building a wall, dirt wall, or something like this. If you're constructing a campfire pit, you need a lot improvement permit. Now, if you're just buying a metal campfire pit container, you don't need a permit for that, but if you're actually going to construct a campfire pit, you need that. You need a permit if you're going to bring in a wood stove. And then you need a permit for anything other construction that may not be covered in here. You just need to ask the Lot Improvement Committee if you need a permit, and they'll tell you. Now, how do you get a lot improvement permit? Well, you go online to the forms page and you download a lot improvement permit request form. You fill out the form and you send that in to the Lot Improvement Committee or to the caretakers, and they will get it to the Lot Improvement Committee. The Lot Improvement Committee will then review your request and either approve or deny you a permit. And if they approve your permit, they'll give you a little permit sign that you have to post on your assigned camping lot while your project is underway. Now, again, in Chapter 22, there's some very specific rules of how you fill out the form and the designs and the drawings you have to present. So again, please read Chapter 22. Now, sometimes you need a Grays Harbor building permit. And if you're doing what I would say is kind of a major structure, then you're also going to need to get one of their building permits. In this video, we're going to cover the general structures where you need those type of permits. All right, so we're going to walk around the park now and look at some of the structures and talk about what the rules are for them and the permitting process for each of those. All right, before we get to our first construction area, let me talk a little bit about building codes. Now, some people are under the misimpression that if you don't need a Grays Harbor County permit, you don't need to build your structure to code. This is completely false. Whether you have to have a Grays Harbor permit or not, every structure you build must meet the International Resident Code standards. It's just that if you don't need a building permit, the state or the county is not going to come out and inspect it until there's a problem. And if there is a problem, they will look at it, and if it's not built to code, then the association and you will get in trouble. So every structure in Park400, regardless how big or small, must be built to the IRC codes. And if you follow the rules of Chapter 22, you'll be okay with that. We're going to start off by talking about decks. And decks are probably the most complicated and rule-intensive structure you can build on your assigned camping lot. Now, sometimes the deck requires only a Park 400 lot improvement permit. Sometimes it requires a Grays Harbor County permit in addition to the lot improvement permit. So how do you tell the difference? Well, it all has to do with the height of your deck. If the floor of your deck is 30 inches or greater above grade, you will need both a lot improvement permit and a Grays Harbor County permit. If the floor of your deck is below 30 inches above grade, you only need a lot improvement permit. Now, it's a special way you have to measure this. So what you have to do is from your planned floor of your deck where it ends, you have to come out 3 feet. So I'm going to measure 3 feet here and adjust this board. And then you have to measure from that point 3 feet 8 down to the ground. And I'm going to measure this one, and this one says it's 29.5 inches. So this deck only needs a lot improvement permit. If it was 30 inches or above, it would need, in addition to the lot improvement permit, a Grays Harbor County permit. Now, there are some caveats. Even if your deck is below 30 inches above grade, if you're going to put a roof on it, it must have a Grays Harbor County permit, even if it's only 12 inches. So this is a good example of a deck with a roof on it. And if we measure the height above grade, the height above grade is 29 inches. So if it didn't have a roof, it would only need a lot improvement permit. But since it does have a roof, it now also needs a Grays Harbor permit. Now, whenever you need a Grays Harbor permit, you're going to have to go to the Grays Harbor building county guys, and you're going to submit your plans, and they're going to make sure that your plans for your deck are totally within the requirements of the International Residency Code building codes, which are very, very specific. So as long as you can pass their standards, you will build it to our standards. Now, if your deck does not have a roof or is below 30 inches in height, all you need is a lot improvement permit. Then you have to follow our Park 400 deck design and construction standards, and you basically have to submit the same type of drawings and design to the lot improvement permit to prove that you're building it to the same codes. Again, you have to build it to code even if it doesn't need a county permit. Now, let's talk about the two of the most critical things on decks. Your deck cannot be attached to your RV. It can be really, really close, but it cannot be attached with a bolt or a nail or a screw or anything like that. All right, the next most important thing is the foundation. So I'm going to talk about the foundation. The other items you're going to have to read about yourself in the deck design guide, and that's about the trusses and the distance between the boards and the size of boards you have to use, all those kind of things. And it goes into a lot of detail, so please refer to the deck design guide. So the other critical part on a deck construction is the foundation. At a minimum, you must have a concrete foundation that is 12 inches below grade and 12 inches square, with your post mechanically connected to that concrete pier going into the ground. Now, that's for a deck that does not have a roof and is less than 30 inches above grade. Again, look at the deck construction guide and it will give you all the details about the foundation piers. If you have a deck that's higher than 30 inches or it has a roof, when you go to Grays Harbor to get that permit, they have tables, and this pier may be much larger and much deeper. That's why you'll need a permit then. I'm going to show you some of the piers that are not acceptable. Now, sometime, especially on older decks, we'll see these concrete piers that are just sitting on the ground. this is not acceptable and is not according to code. Now you can use these if you want to, but you have to set them in the concrete that's 12 inches into the ground for decks that are below 30 inches. Again, for decks that are above 30 inches or have a roof, you have to follow Grays Harbor County. So if you're going to build your deck, you have to have those piers concreted in the ground. All right, now we're going to talk about what we call RV roofs or covers. So this is an example of an RV roof or cover. Now, all of these require both a lot improvement permit and a Grays Harbor permit. And to get the Grays Harbor permit, you're going to want to see all your designs to make sure it meets the building codes. So this must be freestanding, must be constructed out of construction lumber, and go to chapter 22 and it'll give you all the size parameters for it. The big thing is it cannot be connected in any way, shape, or form to your RV. Now we're going to talk about what we call RV caps or toppers, which is a roof on top of an RV generally constructed to help keep the rain out, but no portion of the roof touches the ground. In this particular case, since nothing touches the ground, you do not need a Grays Harbor County permit. You only need a lot improvement permit. Now, these are pretty simple and they're covered in chapter 22, and the only thing I'm going to point out is the greatest distance the eaves can come away from your trailer is 6 inches. Now, also, these should be attached somehow to your RV, so if we get a big windstorm or something, they're not blowing off. But you've got to be kind of careful that you could easily remove this, or you could run afoul of the Washington State labor and industry rules on RVs, that you are modifying an RV, and if you were to put it on the road in this condition, you'd have to have special permit. But if you took it off, then of course you would be okay. But from a construction standpoint, lot improvement permit, no more than 6-inch eaves. And now we'll talk about patios. And we define patios as any outdoor space constructed on the surface of the ground. Now, you do not need a Grays Harbor permit for this, but you do need a lot improvement permit for any patio that's greater than 36 square feet. So that's basically 6 feet one way, 6 feet the other way. If it's greater than that, you need a lot improvement permit. Now, you can use a lot of different materials to construct this. It's all covered in chapter 22. What I will point out is if you want to put a small concrete pad as part of your patio, like this one has, to support a fire pit or something else, you can do that as long as the concrete pad itself is less than 36 square feet or 6 feet by 6 feet or any combination of that. So, lot improvement permit. Right now we'll talk about storage sheds. After decks, storage sheds are the structure that you have to conform to the most rules. Now the primary rule is you've got to keep the floor space no larger than 120 square feet. If you do that, which you have to, you do not need a Grays Harbor permit, but you do need a lot improvement permit. And there's a lot of variations on the storage shed, and it's all covered in chapter 22. What's the tallest height? What's the roof design? There are cases when you can have an overhang and put firewood underneath it. You can have an eyebrow. You really need to go read all those requirements in chapter 22, and they must be incorporated into your request when you submit for a lot improvement permit. Now, storage sheds must be freestanding, constructed of wood using a IRC construction codes. You cannot use, for example, an old trailer as a storage shed, or an old truck camper topper that fits in the bed for a storage shed or something like that. Must be a constructed storage shed. So now we'll talk about pre-manufactured storage units. These are different than storage sheds. You can have up to 2 pre-manufactured storage units on your assigned camping lot. Now, to be covered under Rule 22, each pre-manufactured shed must be greater than 15 square feet, but no more than 50 square feet. And you can have up to 2 of those. There's some height rules. Go look up Chapter 22 for all the specifics. Fences. So fences require a lot improvement permit, but do not require a Grays Harbor building permit. And you can have about as many fences as you want as long as you get approval from the Lot Improvement Committee. The really only requirement is that the maximum height of any fence, it can be 6 feet. So that's all the structures we're going to talk about, but we haven't covered all the structures that Chapter 22 rules cover. So you need to go read those rules for such things as putting in satellite dishes or firewood storage racks or wood stoves and some other structures. So again, this video, I hope you enjoyed it. It was just kind of a quick summary, and the major point is please read Chapter 22 and know what the requirements are before you build a new structure, you modify an existing structure, or you repair a current structure when you're going to change that structure. All right, have a great day.